Halo is coming to PlayStation. If you told that to me as a little kid, I'd think you were out of your mind. Even now, it doesn't feel real. Seeing Master Chief's green armor next to a blue PlayStation logo feels like a betrayal, but not in the way people think. It's a harrowing realization that something we all grew up with is quietly fading away. And honestly, I don't even know whether to laugh, cry, or just shrug, because deep down, we've all seen this coming. When I first heard the rumour that Microsoft was planning to bring more of its exclusive games to other platforms, I thought, okay, maybe smaller titles, maybe Hi-Fi Rush, maybe something experimental. But Halo, that's not just any Xbox IP, it's the reason millions of us bought our first Xbox. It's the reason the console even mattered in the first place. And now, the series that used to sell entire generations of hardware is about to launch on Sony's console. If that's not the definition of end of an era, I don't know what is. But this isn't just about Halo, it's about what this move says about the future of Xbox, and frankly, what it says about Microsoft's gaming division as a whole. Let's back up for a second. When Xbox entered the console scene in 2001, it was the underdog, a big, clunky black box going toe-to-toe with Sony's PlayStation 2. And it worked, because Xbox had something to prove. It was scrappy, it was bold, and it had Halo, Combat Evolved. That game single-handedly made the Xbox a household name. It defined what a console shooter could be. It gave the brand an identity, a purpose. Fast forward 20 years, and that identity's gone. You can feel it. Xbox doesn't know what it wants to be anymore. Is it a console brand, a service platform, a PC publisher, a subscription ecosystem? Some kind of cloud streaming tech experiment? Microsoft's trying to be all of those things at once. And in doing so, it's slowly erasing the one thing that used to make Xbox special. Halo being on PlayStation isn't just a business decision, it's a symptom. It's proof that the Xbox we grew up with, the console that stood shoulder to shoulder with Sony and Nintendo, doesn't really exist anymore. And honestly, this move feels like the final nail in that coffin. Now, to be fair, I understand the logic behind it. From a pure business perspective, it makes sense. Xbox hardware isn't selling like it used to. Game Pass growth has slowed down. Microsoft's been bleeding billions into acquisitions. Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, trying to buy their way into relevance, but none of that's translating into a stronger console identity. So when you can't win the console war, you change the battlefield. That's what Microsoft's doing. They're not trying to beat PlayStation anymore. They're trying to transcend it, become something bigger. But the problem is, that's exactly what's killing them. Because in trying to become everything, Xbox stopped being anything. Remember when Xbox used to have personality? When you heard that boot-up sound and felt like you were part of a different club? The players who loved Halo, Gears of War, Fable, Forza, when they weren't just games, they were symbols of what the console stood for. Now, that identity's gone. Game Pass is the new face of Xbox. Subscription metrics have replaced hype. Engagement is the new buzzword. And all of it feels cold, corporate, sterile, like the soul's been sucked out of the brand. And yeah, I know people will say, well, it's good that more people get to play Halo. And I agree. More access is good. I want people to enjoy good games no matter what system they're on. But this isn't about inclusivity, it's about survival. Microsoft isn't putting Halo on PlayStation because they suddenly care about sharing. They're doing it because they need money. Fast. Game Pass isn't bringing in enough new users. Xbox hardware sales are flatlining, and those massive studio acquisitions haven't started paying off yet. So now they're looking across the aisle and saying, you know what? Maybe Sony players have a few bucks we can grab too. It's desperation disguised as strategy. And the thing that makes it sting worse is that Xbox has been here before. Every few years they reinvent themselves, promising that this time they'll finally get it right. The Xbox One launch debacle? We've learned our lesson. The Series X/S marketing push? We're all about the players now, but every time they stumble over the same problem, lack of focus. Xbox doesn't have an identity crisis anymore, it's got an identity funeral. And let's not ignore the other elephant in the room, price hikes. Remember when Xbox used to be the value option? The console that gave you great hardware, solid exclusives, and online play for cheaper than Sony. Those days are over. Game Pass prices have gone up, console prices have gone up, controller prices have gone up. Microsoft's even testing tiered pricing for Game Pass, where certain versions don't include day one games anymore. Imagine that. The one thing that made Game Pass worth it, day one access, now being paywalled behind the premium tier. And the wildest part, they're doing all this right before announcing that Halo, their flagship series, is going to PlayStation. That's like charging people extra to get into a concert, and then telling them the band's playing across the street for free. There's this sense that Microsoft doesn't know who its audience is anymore. They talk about being for gamers, but every move they make screams for shareholders. And look, every corporation cares about profits. That's the game. But Xbox used to feel like a brand that actually cared about being cool, about competing, about having its own space in gaming culture. Now they just feel like a service provider in gamer clothes. And if Halo going to PlayStation isn't the ultimate metaphor for that shift, I don't know what is. It's funny. People forget that this isn't even the first sign of Xbox spreading its exclusives around. We've seen Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, and even older titles like Ori and The Blind Forest make their way to Switch and PlayStation. But those were one-offs, little experiments. This is symbolic. Halo is Xbox's soul, and when you start handing your soul to your biggest rival, it tells the world you've given up on being unique. Now some will say, it's not giving up, it's evolving. Maybe. But evolving into what? Microsoft's trying to rebrand Xbox as a platform-agnostic ecosystem, where the goal isn't to sell consoles, but subscriptions. The idea is that no matter where you play, PC, phone, TV, PlayStation, whatever, Xbox will be there. On paper, that's genius. In reality, it's suicidal, at least for Xbox as a console brand. Because if people can play Halo on PlayStation, if they can get Game Pass on PC or streaming devices, then why buy an Xbox console at all? What's the point of the hardware anymore? And that's the dirty secret here. Microsoft doesn't want you to buy consoles. They want you to buy into the ecosystem, into Game Pass, into that monthly recurring revenue. But by doing that, they're killing the magic that made Xbox special in the first place. The whole reason console gaming works, the reason people still argue about platforms, is because those platforms have identities. They stand for something. Nintendo's about creativity and nostalgia. PlayStation's about cinematic quality and exclusivity. Xbox used to be about boldness, community, and innovation. Now it's just about access, and access on its own doesn't inspire loyalty. It doesn't make people excited. It doesn't make you feel proud to own something. It just makes you feel like a customer in a subscription funnel. Halo, being on PlayStation, isn't the cause of Xbox's decline. It's the symptom. It's the moment that made the cracks visible to everyone. I think the most tragic part of all this is how little people seem to care anymore. The announcement didn't cause outrage, it caused shrugs. People went, oh, that makes sense, because everyone already knew Xbox had stopped pretending to be a console brand, and that's the saddest kind of ending, not a fiery downfall, but a slow fade into irrelevance. When I look back, the thing that really hits me is how inevitable all this feels now. If you told me 10 years ago that Halo would be a multi-platform release, I would have laughed. Back then, Xbox was fighting tooth and nail. They cared about being in the same league as Sony. They were trying to win people back after the Xbox One mess. But somewhere along the way, that fight just stopped. It's like Microsoft quietly decided, we can't win this game anymore, so let's change the rules. And at first, sure, that sounded smart. Game Pass was fresh. It felt like the Netflix of gaming. We all thought it was this bold, player-friendly move. But now, it feels more like a trap. Because here's the thing about subscription models. They need constant growth. The minute growth slows, the companies behind them panic. And that's exactly what's happening. Microsoft went all in on Game Pass, expecting it to explode forever. And at first, it did. But then they hit a ceiling, a point where everyone who wanted Game Pass already had it. And you can't keep feeding a business model that's based on infinite growth once you hit a finite player base. So now Microsoft's doing what every tech giant does when growth stops. They start milking. Prices go up, tiers get confusing, features get split apart, and the value they once bragged about starts shrinking. That's not innovation, that's decay. Meanwhile, Sony's over there doing the exact opposite. They're not chasing some weird service future, they're doubling down on what works. Big exclusives, strong hardware identity, premium presentation. They're playing the console game and winning it. And then you've got Microsoft trying to reinvent the wheel while the car's already on fire. The irony is that Xbox was supposed to be the competition that kept Sony sharp. When Xbox was at its best, around the 360 era, it forced Sony to get better. That rivalry pushed both companies to innovate. It made gaming exciting. Now, with Xbox slowly walking off the battlefield, I worry about what that means for everyone else. Competition is what keeps this industry healthy. Without it, we end up with complacency, or worse, monopolies. When Microsoft bought up Bethesda and Activision, they said it was all about expanding the Xbox ecosystem. But now that they're bleeding content onto PlayStation, what's the point of those acquisitions? They didn't buy those studios to make Xbox stronger. They bought them to make Microsoft richer. That's a key difference. Because here's the truth, a lot of people don't like to admit, Microsoft doesn't care about Xbox as a console. They care about Xbox as a brand, a logo they can slap onto anything. PC, phone, cloud, you name it. The hardware? That's just baggage. And Halo on PlayStation proves it. For years, Xbox fans, myself included, defended Microsoft's decisions because we believed in the brand. We wanted to believe there was still something there. But at some point, you can't keep pretending your favorite restaurant hasn't gone downhill just because you loved it when you were a kid. We've all seen the signs, the lack of major first-party exclusives, the confusing studio management, the endless delays, and of course, the slow creep of price hikes that feel like a slap in the face to long-time supporters. It's wild to me that the same company that once advertised "power your dreams" now feels more like "pay for our mistakes." And maybe that's what stings the most, the lack of passion. When you look at how PlayStation markets its games, there's pride there. When Nintendo announces something, there's a sense of playfulness and excitement. But when Xbox drops an announcement these days, it feels like reading a corporate memo. Dear shareholders, we have achieved another milestone in content accessibility. Great. Where's the soul? When Halo Infinite came out, I wanted so badly to believe it was the comeback moment. For a few weeks, it even felt that way. The gameplay was tight, the movement was fluid, it had that spark again. But then, the live service stuff started, the slow content updates, the weird monetization, and that spark flickered out. Now, with Halo moving to PlayStation, it feels like the final stage of that disillusionment. The realization that Halo isn't ours anymore. It's just another asset. And sure, from a practical standpoint, it'll probably do well on PlayStation. It'll sell millions. People will have fun with it. But symbolically, it's the end of the Xbox dream. The idea that Microsoft could stand shoulder to shoulder with Nintendo and Sony and actually matter as a gaming company, that's gone. Now they're a service provider, a middleman, the blockbuster trying to survive in a Netflix world. And you can see that identity crisis everywhere. The hardware side's confused. Series X, Series S, digital versions, weird availability. The software side's inconsistent, years between major releases, uneven quality. The leadership's scattered, half of them talking about innovation, the other half about synergies. Meanwhile, the community that actually built the Xbox brand, the players who stuck through Red Rings of Death, through Kinect, through the Xbox One era, we're left wondering what we were loyal to in the first place. And here's the painful truth. I think Microsoft knows this. They know the Xbox console as we knew it is done. They're not going to say it outright, not yet, but every move they've made points to that future. You don't raise prices and then send your biggest exclusive to a rival platform if you're planning to compete in hardware. You just don't. That's a company getting ready to pivot. I can already see where this is going. In a few years, Xbox hardware becomes optional. Game Pass becomes the centerpiece. You'll see Halo, Gears, Forza, maybe even Starfield popping up everywhere. Because Microsoft's new mission isn't to win the console war, it's to end it. They want a future where the idea of exclusive doesn't matter because they can't win that fight. They want a future where every platform has Xbox games, as long as you pay them. It's clever in a tech bro, chessboard way. But as a gamer who grew up with these consoles, it's just depressing because gaming was never supposed to be about ecosystems and subscriptions. It was about moments, about buying a console, loading up a disc, and feeling like you were entering a world that only existed there. When you picked up Halo 2 back in the day, you weren't just playing a game, you were part of something. Xbox Live lobbies, LAN parties, clan tags. It was a culture. You can't replicate that in a cross-platform, cloud-streamed, subscription-based world. You can't buy identity, and that's what Microsoft's never understood. You can't just throw money at gaming and expect it to give you soul. Sony learned that the hard way in the PS3 era and rebuilt. Nintendo learned it after the Wii U and reinvented. Microsoft, they just doubled down on being the richest guy in the room, and you can't buy magic. So yeah, seeing Halo on PlayStation is surreal. It's sad, but it's also fitting, because this isn't just about one game. It's the quiet admission that Xbox doesn't see itself as a console anymore. It's a brand floating in search of purpose. Do I think Xbox is going away tomorrow? No. Microsoft has too much money for that. But as a console, as that box under your TV that defined your childhood, I think its best days are over. What comes next is going to look very different. Maybe they'll pivot fully to PC and streaming. Maybe we'll get some kind of hybrid handheld that leans into cloud gaming. Maybe one day the word Xbox won't even mean hardware at all. It'll just be the name of Microsoft's game store. And that's kind of heartbreaking, because whether you were Team Green, Team Blue, or Team Red, you needed Xbox to exist. You needed that competition, that variety, that little bit of swagger that made each platform feel unique. Without that, the industry loses something. It becomes flatter, safer, more corporate. And that's why this moment, Halo coming to PlayStation, matters so much. It's not just a business deal, it's a symbolic shift. It's the day Xbox stopped trying to be a console and started trying to be a service. And look, maybe I'm just nostalgic, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe in a few years this will all make sense. But right now, it feels like watching a friend give up on their dream. You know that feeling when you see an old band reunite, but they're not playing for the love of the music anymore, just the paycheck. That's what Xbox feels like now. And yeah, maybe it's smart business, maybe it's the future. But for me, I miss the Xbox that cared, the Xbox that took risks, that tried weird things, that gave us Halo 3 midnight launches and Xbox Live Arcade summers. That made you proud to own the console, not just the subscription. So yeah, when I see Halo on PlayStation, I don't feel angry. I just feel tired. Tired of watching another piece of gaming history get stripped for parts. Tired of seeing creativity replaced with corporate calculus. Tired of watching something I loved get slowly absorbed into the machine. Because Xbox used to stand for something. It used to have an identity. And now it's just another app. And maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that Halo's coming to PlayStation, but that it doesn't even feel like a betrayal anymore. It just feels like the inevitable end of something we already lost a long time ago. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you sitting through and listening to my passionate rant about this silly little video game company. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks guys, and I'll chat with you later.